Folks, I'm speaking from experience when I tell you that there's nothing on this green earth that a liberal progressive fears more than a black American who wants a better life and a smaller government.
Well, you heard him there, and now you can hear him here. Former Republican Congressman Alan West. I mean, Congressman, they were revving up the presidential bandwagon for you. What did you make of the reaction you got?
You just talked about Rand Paul, so he's the guy at the top of the heap when you look at that CPAC straw poll. Look, I just want to continue to say the things that are the truth that Americans need to hear and not what they want to hear, Neil.
What a lot of the folks in that room want to hear is what's going to be done about these, you know, pressing deficits and all that other stuff down the road. But then over the weekend, the same weekend, we get word out of party leaders that the debt crisis isn't an immediate crisis. What did you make of that?
Well, I can understand it, and I listened and heard your initial segment with Mark Levin, and this is a very confusing message that you're sending out. If you are going to be a loyal opposition, if you're going to be the party of fiscal responsibility, you should recognize that this debt situation that we have, that is soon going to be $17 trillion, and by the time that President Obama steps out, it will be $20 trillion. And back when he was Senator Obama, he called President George W. Bush being unpatriotic. The debt was only about $9 trillion. So something has gone awry, and hopefully we don't see a GOP leadership up there in the House especially that is starting to take the baby steps back, because we do have this debt ceiling vote that's coming up pretty soon. We've got to stop this spending, and we've got to get the federal government under control.
You used to work there, Congressman, and I always think there's a method to all madness, and I think that someone there or within the ranks of the party establishment must be saying, we can't aggressively push this because maybe in and of itself, pushing the idea of immediately attacking the debt, and then we don't, immediately backfires on us, and it will. What do you think?
Well, I'll go back to the words of former Chairman, Joint Chiefs of Staff Mullen, who said that our debt is the most important, most critical national security crisis of this country. Now, if that is coming from the Chairman of Joint Chiefs of Staff, I would believe that everyone else in Washington, D.C. would get on board. You know, you would not think that something such as that financial matter would have something to do with our national security, but it does. You look at what is going on with us with these missile interceptors that we're moving up into Alaska. It is costing us now 2 to 3 times what it should have cost. And guess what? We'll have to borrow money from China, who supports North Korea, in order for us to have a missile defense shield against North Korea. And once again, that's insanity.
So when the president goes to Israel and he's talking about, you know, bridging the divide with Benjamin Netanyahu, is still cobbling together the last piece of this coalition government, will anything change? Because obviously, you know, you're no stranger to the ill will between our two countries, and this is supposed to be a fence-building effort. Will it succeed?
Well, I'm all about end results and not about words and not about trips. It's amazing to me that this is the president's first trip. He went to Turkey and gave a speech. He went to Saudi Arabia. He went to Cairo in 2009 and gave his infamous speech about reaching out and building bridges with the Muslim world. And now we see Israel in a neighborhood that is absolutely unconscionable and threatening to its security. So the little things that we remember the president saying behind the doors to Sarkozy, the way that he treated Prime Minister Netanyahu previously, I don't know that anything's going to change. Look, if the president is very serious, he would go and say that we're moving our embassy from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem, and we would recognize that Jerusalem is the rightful capital. But of course, if you go back to the DNC convention just this last year, you know, they had to add back into their convention platform that they would even recognize Jerusalem as the rightful capital of the modern-day state of Israel. So it's those things that I look at, not about the trips and visits and the words and the rhetoric. I want to see some actions.
Real quickly, this discourse among Republicans has some thinking that the grand old party is at war with itself. Is it?
Well, you know, the theme of CPAC this past weekend was the next generation. We were talking about new challenges and timeless principles. And I believe that much the same with the relay race, you have that exchange zone. And it's time for us to pass that baton within the exchange zone, because if you don't pass it within that exchange zone, then you get disqualified. We don't want to see this GOP get disqualified. People have to realize that there's a new generation of voices, a new generation of conservative leadership. You look at the young people that were there, they're looking beyond the old stalwarts that are there right now, and we've got to move on, or else this party is no longer viable. So I believe that this is a question of transition in leadership, and if we don't do it at the right moment, we may see a party that becomes no longer relevant.
Real quickly, those who are urging you to run for president at CPAC, and I talked to a lot of them, are you saying you're not?
Look, you know, the most important thing, Neil, is that I'm always in a position that I'll serve my country however they wish me to. If they want a really good dog catcher, I'll be willing to do that. So we don't know what happens, you know, as we go forward toward 2016, but maybe I'll have you as my economic advisor.
Okay, that's already a doomed campaign right there. Alan West, it's always a pleasure.
But we can eat a lot of good cannolis, though.
You're no doubt there, buddy. No doubt there. All right, thank you very much. And marinara sauce. I'm great
Always
with
a
marinara
pleasure.
sauce. All right, well, unions unhinged, Detroit today. Look at this.